Okay. I will use graphite because it makes a nice black line, but normally you would do this more in with a, I will use charcoal because it makes a nice dark line instead of graphite. If you don't have a T-square so that you can line up things on the edge and keep it straight, then you can get around that. We're experiencing technical difficulties, but it should come back shortly. I'll try that, see if it works a little bit better. That is a little bit better. Okay. So if you don't have a T-square or a triangle, then using your square of your paper, I recommend measuring down 2 points. So from here, we're going to go. I'm just going to put the center line, the horizon line, 6 inches. This is a 12 by 18 sheet of paper. And line those two guys up like that. And that's going to be a standard procedure. That's the standard horizon line. It's going to stick that I'm going to measure everything else off of, even though I don't have a T-square or a triangle. Actually, I do have a triangle, but I'm going to use it this way. So to make sure that you are making your lines straight, you have to be pretty religious about measuring it. And anytime that you have to extend a line, don't guess if you're building the ground plane, like if you're building your grid, perspective grid for the assignment. Everything should be measured off 2 points at least, like an inch, measuring off every inch, making sure that everything all lines up. So and you can take this, and I'm just going to lightly put outline of like a regular 8.5 by 11. That doesn't have to be super precise. It's just a window, because we're going to put our vanishing points outside of the window. That'll make the perspective a bit more natural. If you put the perspective lines inside too close, it'll be like you're up really close to the object, and it'll seem more distorted because it'll seem like it's coming more out or going away from you. If you put the vanishing points out here on the horizon, outside of the edge of the paper, it'll be a more natural, more realistic look. So we'll do just the basic shapes just to get a start. With 2-point perspective, remember with 1-point perspective, you had 2 kinds of lines, or 3 kinds of lines: horizontal, vertical, and converging. With 2-point perspective, you have 2 kinds of lines: vertical and converging. The only horizontal line you have is the horizon line. Nothing else will be along the horizon. Nothing else will go horizontally unless it's sitting right on the horizon. It's just kind of like your eye level. Your eyeballs will line up here and pretend your eyes are out. There's your eyeballs. Okay. So I want to make a box down. I'm going to start with boxes. I'll make a box down here. The first thing that I can do, if I've got my paper lined up with the bottom edge of my board, which I do, because I'm kind of neurotic like that, I can actually balance my ruler in here and keep things pretty straight. If I'm not sure that I can do that, then I might want to measure from the edge a couple of points to build a vertical line that is truly vertical. So, all right, so I'm going to make my first box is going to be right here. It's going to be this tall. So you can make your decision on how tall you want your boxes to be in the beginning, because you are like in charge. You're in control. Move up closer on this guy here. On the bottom of the box, we're going to build basically everything on parallel lines. Parallel lines always converge on the vanishing point. So we're going to build the side of the box, which will have parallel lines. Those parallel lines are moving away from us in space, so they will converge on the horizon line. And I want my box to be pretty square, so I'm going to eyeball the cube. It feels like a cube. it's a good idea to just practice making squares that feel square, even if you're putting the squares in perspective. You get kind of a sense of whether something is square or not, if you can just imagine the perspective on it. It's a pretty good book that you can use to learn how to do rapid visualization, it's called. And everything's made out of cubes. So I've got my other plane, and I'm going to give this an equal vertical line. So now I've got the two sides of the boxes going away into the distance. To remember, on 2-point and 3-point perspective, to make the converging lines in my head, I always think crisscross applesauce. And I go from the far corner to create the parallel lines going to the distance on the left and the opposite corner to the right. That gives us a nice little box. So let's do another box just for kicks, because we can. Put one above the horizon. That's pretty far up there. It's going to, it's almost not going to reach. Now I'm not going to take it all the way to the point. And you can actually pin this almost like with your pencil and pivot so that you make sure that your vanishing points line up. So you can actually hold your pencil point on your vanishing point and just rotate the ruler, so you don't have to totally pick up the ruler and move it. So this is all vertical. So I'm going to make a tall, thin line and going to make the box pretty deep. So now line these 2 points up and then line these 2 points up. Now it's a nice little box in perspective. Maybe I want to make this one see-through, or how about we make it open-ended on one end? So I'll put on the inside, if I wanted to, I could put these lines in here too, but I'm not going to do that. All right, let's try, we'll put one right on the horizon line. So if it's on the horizon line, it goes up above and below the horizon, which means we don't see the top or the bottom. We can only see the two sides. So with 1-point perspective, essentially what you're looking at is the face of the cube, box of the cube. Everything goes towards the center. With 2-point perspective, what you're looking at is the edge of the cube, so that the box is standing towards you and facing you by the edge. With 3-point perspective, which we'll do next week, the corner of the box is facing you, and the edges of the box are moving away from you. So everything is converging, and it gets really hairy to do that. But that's just 1 point with 3 vanishing points. With the edge, like the corner of the box is coming towards you. All right, I'll do this here. So this is a great way to build a street scene, which is the second task in the 2-point perspective. You can build a whole street scene as long as you keep your lines vertical. You can actually decide, okay, I'm going to have a door, and the door is going to be here. So the door, top of the door jamb is going to go into the distance as well. And maybe I want to put a couple of windows here. So they'll go here. Now, what if I want to put a peaked roof on it or build a prism? We'll want to build this box up, these edges up, because we're going to need to put like another box on top of the building. To find the center of the building, if you have a square in perspective and you look for the center, it may seem like it's the center because it's equal distance from here and here and here and here, but the true center is where the diagonals are. So the true center is further away from the center on a visual plane because things get closer together, the further away they go. There's a name for that, and I forget what it is. So to find the center of any squarish object, we go from corner to corner, and then we take that middle point, draw it straight up. Okay, so I want my roof to be, you could draw another box up here, find your center, and build the center off that way, but I built it off the bottom one because it was just as easy. Then the peak of the roof to the overhang of the edge, that's not going to go towards any vanishing point because it's the edge of the roof. And then I'll build this one up too. Now, how am I going to get the back one? We know that this is going to be the peak of the roof, and it will go to the vanishing point. But how do I make this back line? Well, the best way to do that would be to either build off of this center of the square. Actually, I could do that quite easily. I could do this. Build off the center if this house is going straight back. And then build off this side here. And then make the invisible hidden back side of the box for the house right there. I screwed something up, didn't I? We'll have to build this one too. So I'm going to build the back of the box of the house. And almost every time you're going to be crisscrossing your, that's how it works, verticals. It doesn't seem right, but we're going to let it sit. Maybe because it's so oblique of an angle. Oh, there's my center. Very good. So that makes the back peak of the roof. So now I've got a house. You can give it a light shading just so that you can tell one side from another. Maybe I put a little window in the top, attic window up here. Could put a chimney in here too. So that's going to be another box. This is all for really for conceptualizing. If you were out drawing something that you could see, you'd have to estimate your perspective lines based on the environment and the angle that you're seeing the house. You might not be seeing the exact edge on of the house. It may be at some other strange angle. So there's our chimney. Some windows here. All right. So those are basic blocks and prisms. Another kind of a prism. I'm going to build the side here. So I almost always start out my prisms with essentially a box, and then cut away the prism part of it. To me, that seems to work the best. And you can either go from corner to corner, build your prism that way. You can find the perfect center, or you can make an arbitrary point, depending on how precise you want your prism to be. So it's going to be from this point Not that point, this point here, I'm sorry. There's the back of the prism. At this point here will be the bottom back piece of the prism. But making it within the side, carving away the box really is what I'm doing to create those back pieces. So erasing some of the guidelines, but not all of the guidelines, just so that you can still see what you're up to. Are you in my 120 class, Randy? You think so? Are you in the perspective or the observational drawing? What's your last name? I have like 60 students this time, and I haven't got them all memorized yet. Do you know if you're in observational drawing or okay, I know who you are. Okay, which class are you in? Gosh, let me check real quick because that's important. You were having some definite issues with some stuff, and so yes. Hang on, let me find you. All right, you are in observational drawing. So the perspective stuff is not as important for you. So just hang on one second while I finish my thought. For some reason, they teach you observational drawing before they teach you perspective, and I'm not sure why, because I think you should learn perspective first, because perspective is logical, and it explains why things look a certain way when you're doing observational drawing. So, yes, you're going to have lots of fun with the next assignment, which is the still life assignment. I did a quick demo of it last time. I'll do another demo of it now. But you want to see? No, you cannot do the assignment in Photoshop. No. This is everything should be done on paper first, because once you understand it on paper, then you can use Photoshop. It's like you want to know how to walk before you start running. Otherwise, you're liable to pitch yourself headlong into disaster. Okay? Okay, good. All right. So let's change gears. I'm actually going to stop.